When visiting the United Kingdom, it's not a question of what is there to do. It's a question of what isn't there to do. Is it any wonder why the country is a favorite spot for tourism? I've never been there myself, but I've wanted to visit for many years, and I hope to very soon. For that reason, I've done extensive research on the area. For the next few minutes, I'm going to share some of what I've learned with you, give you some ideas in case you ever decide to go for yourself. Now, there's no way I can cover everything, so I've picked out a few landmarks that are famous for their architecture, their history, and, for you paranormal enthusiasts, their ghost stories. Let's start with a couple of London's architectural marvels. There are many well-known bridges crossing over the River Thames, and Tower Bridge is probably one of the most popular for visitors. But many people mistake it for London Bridge. In fact, if you Google London Bridge, you'll get many more photos of Tower Bridge. It's important to understand that they are not one and the same. Tower Bridge takes its name from the nearby Tower of London and was completed in 1894, after taking 8 years and over $150 million in today's money to build. It's designed as a combination bascule and suspension bridge. Now, bascule bridges are those that split apart and lift up to let the river traffic pass through underneath. The original hydraulic system was powered by 2 steam engines, and a third one was added during World War II in case the others were damaged by enemy action. The entire system was replaced in the 1970s with an electro-hydraulic system, so now this third engine is kept at a nearby museum. And there's an exhibition on the high-level walkways of the bridge that tourists can visit. An adult ticket costs about $12. As an added bonus, you'll see views of the city up there that you won't find anywhere else. St. Paul's Cathedral is another architectural wonder and very recognizable. The current building was built in the early 1700s, after the previous one was destroyed in the Great Fire of London. The dome is one of the largest in the world, and the cathedral itself is the second largest church building in the UK. Now, just to give you an idea of its size, at the top of the dome sits a golden ball underneath the cross, and it's large enough to hold 10 adults inside. A favorite spot here for tourists is the Whispering Gallery that runs around the interior of the dome, so called because its design makes it possible to hear a whisper from across the building. There's also an underground crypt, where some of the most influential people in the history of Britain are buried, including Lords Nelson and Wellington. Now, churchgoers attending Mass aren't charged to enter the cathedral, but sightseers will have to pay about $23 for an adult ticket. St. Paul's receives very little money from the Crown and has to rely on tourism for its funding. If history is more your thing, Stonehenge may spark your interest. It's located in Wiltshire, about 90 minutes west of London. It's estimated to have been built around 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. There are several theories as to its original purpose. Some think it served as an ancient burial site, others a place of healing. A man named Sir Norman Lockyer believed the structure functioned as a celestial observatory, after noting that during the summer solstice, the sun rose in a very precise location in relation to the stones. The monument has needed restoration 4 times since 1900 and has been excavated on several occasions. Tourists can visit Stonehenge any day of the year except around Christmas, and tickets only cost about $12. For a more colorful history, the Tower of London is a must-see. As I mentioned before, it's near Tower Bridge on the north bank of the River Thames, and visitors can stop in for about $32. It was built by William the Conqueror in 1078 as a fortification, and it's served many uses since then. Armory, treasury, prison, and a royal residence, to name a few. Visitors may be curious, though, as to why so many ravens are roaming the grounds. The yeoman warders there will tell you the story of King Charles II, ordering the birds to be removed from the property. But his astrologer said that if the birds disappeared, the tower and the English monarchy would collapse. The birds have been there ever since and are kept there now as a tradition. But the tower is likely best known as the location of numerous executions. Among the more familiar are Anne Boleyn, beheaded only because she was married to King Henry VIII and he wanted to marry another woman, Anne Askew, stretched on the rack because of her faith, and the 2 princes, Edward and Richard, strangled because their uncle refused to give up the throne. On that note, there are numerous ghost stories to be told about the Tower of London. But for the paranormal enthusiast who wants to get out of the city, Windsor Castle is a place worth investigating. It's located in Berkshire, about an hour's drive west of London, and it has its fair share of ghostly sightings. You'll hear a lot of familiar names that are said to be haunting the place. Henry VIII, George III, Elizabeth I. There's also Herne the Hunter. Almost nothing is known about him, but his antlered ghost, yes, he has antlers, is said to roam the forests around Windsor. Should you wish to visit the castle, you may have to hunt around a little to find tickets online, and the prices vary. And some companies will take folks on a combined tour to Windsor Castle and Stonehenge. To those really looking for a scare, check out the Hellfire Caves near West Wycombe. It's about 20 minutes west of London. And tickets are only about $8 for an adult. These caves have a dark and morbid history. A group of satanic worshippers calling themselves the Hellfire Club used to meet here, and they left devilish carvings all over the walls that are still there today. One apparition said to be haunting the grounds is Paul Whitehead, a steward for the club. He's supposedly looking for his stolen heart that was once kept in an urn on the property. But the most well-known ghost here is Suki, a barmaid who worked at a nearby inn 3 centuries ago. Some of the local boys lured her there as the joke, and when she threw rocks in retaliation, they did the same. One of those rocks struck her in the head and she died in those caves. A manager of the Hellfire Caves says that about 20 people a year have an encounter with the White Lady. So you see, the UK has something for everybody. Wherever you may be visiting, you're sure to find something that sparks your interests. Many of the more popular tourism spots are in London, but it's not the only city worth visiting. And we've talked about some familiar landmarks, but the locals can offer suggestions if you're looking for some less prominent locations. Who knows, you might even discover some hidden gems.